My name is Grace Anderson, and for 15 years, I was the family disappointment. While my sister collected Harvard degrees and six-figure job offers, I taught finger painting to 5-year-olds. Last week at her graduation party, my parents handed her the keys to a Tesla and a $13 million Manhattan penthouse. They called her the only success story of the family. I stood in the back, invisible as always, until a stranger in a charcoal suit approached me with an envelope. "Your grandfather knew the truth," he whispered. What happened next left my entire family speechless. The Anderson family penthouse overlooked Central Park from the 68th floor. My parents sipped coffee from Waterford Crystal while planning my sister Isabella's future. The Monet original above the fireplace cost more than I'd make in 20 lifetimes as a public school art teacher. My studio apartment in Queens had water stains on the ceiling. While Isabella carried Hermes bags that cost more than my annual rent, I hauled art supplies in a canvas tote. I'd painted myself. The contrast was not subtle, and my parents made sure everyone knew it. Grace teaches at PS 47. My mother would tell her friends at the country club, her voice dropping as if confessing a family crime. Isabella just made law review at Harvard. But I loved my job. Every morning, 23 second graders would run to hug me. Their parents, immigrants, single mothers, fathers working 3 jobs, would thank me with tears in their eyes. My parents never asked about my work. To them, success meant stock portfolios and summers in the Hamptons. I still went to every family dinner, not for them, but for my grandfather who died 10 years ago. He was the only one who'd ever said, "Grace, you're going to change the world, just not the way they expect." I had no idea how right he was. Isabella graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law last week. The dean himself shook her hand. White and Case offered her a starting salary of $215,000. Her graduation gift from Dad, a Patek Philippe watch, cost more than my annual salary of $42,000. The family group chat was a shrine to her glory. My message, "Congratulations, Bella," got a single heart emoji. What that chat didn't show were the 8 National Education Awards in my desk drawer, or the art therapy program I'd built from nothing that now served 500 children with disabilities. I never mentioned these things. In my family's currency, they were worthless. The invitation to her graduation party came on ivory cardstock. At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, "Grace, please dress appropriately." I wore my best dress, a simple black sheath from Target. The St. Regis ballroom glittered with a kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. 200 guests sipped Dom Perignon. I stood by the shrimp display, invisible. From the corner of the room, a man in a charcoal suit watched me. He'd been there since I arrived, his gaze knowing, as if he was waiting for something. My father clinked his champagne glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, "we're here to celebrate the only success story that matters in the Anderson family." He raised his glass to Isabella. The only success story. I wasn't even a footnote anymore. I was an erasure. My mother worked the room. "Isabella's starting at White and Case," she'd say, before catching sight of me. "Oh, that's Grace. She teaches finger painting." My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text read, "Don't leave early tonight. Your grandfather left you more than memories." I looked up. The man in the charcoal suit raised his champagne glass slightly. My father was back at the microphone. And now for the real surprise. "Isabella, success deserves rewards." He produced a small velvet box. "The keys to your new Tesla Model S Plaid." The crowd gasped. "A $130,000 car." "But that's not all," my mother chimed in, holding an envelope. "Inside is the deed to your new home, a $13 million penthouse in Tribeca." The applause was like tiny hammers against my skull. Isabella, at the microphone, looked out at the crowd, her eyes finding mine. "Success isn't easy," she began, her voice honey-sweet with hidden thorns. "It takes the courage to reach for more than finger paintings and participation trophies." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. "Some people," she continued, "are content with mediocrity. The world needs people to teach children their ABCs, while others of us argue cases before the Supreme Court." My cheeks burned. 200 pairs of eyes tried not to look at me while absolutely looking at me. "Excuse me." The man in the charcoal suit stepped forward. The crowd parted. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, his voice soft but carrying authority. "My name is Harold Whitman. I was your grandfather's attorney for 40 years. My father's face went pale. Mr. Whitman, this is a private celebration. Actually, it can't wait, Harold said, a steely edge to his voice. Especially considering what you're about to do. As I was saying, my father blustered, Isabella will also be inheriting the entirety of the Anderson family estate. Grace simply doesn't have the capacity for such responsibility. My mother produced another document. We need Grace to sign this waiver of inheritance rights. It's what's best for everyone. Come on up, Grace, my father commanded. I walked to the stage on legs that felt like water. My mother held out the waiver and a Montblanc pen. Just sign it, sweetheart. Harold Whitman stepped onto the stage. I really must insist you stop. You have no authority here, my father snapped. Your father would disagree, Harold replied calmly. And since he's the one who actually built this empire, I'd say his opinion matters. The pen touched the paper. Your grandfather wrote you letters, Grace, Harold said suddenly. 23 letters over 10 years. Your parents returned every single one unopened. My hand froze. What letters? I looked at my parents. My mother's face was white. Before you sign anything, Harold said, you should know what your grandfather knew. You should know why he called you, the one who would change everything. The pen slipped from my fingers. Show me, I said. My father lunged for the document Harold held, but the old lawyer was surprisingly agile. Shall we read it together? Harold asked. Or would you prefer to tell them yourself what you've been hiding for 10 years? He opened the will, its gold seal catching the light. This will was signed by William Anderson on March 15, 2015. He wanted to wait until both granddaughters had shown their true character. Tonight seemed appropriate. Harold pulled out a thick folder. Your grandfather spent 10 years documenting the real contributions his granddaughters made to society. Not degrees or income, but verifiable positive impact. He set a 3-inch thick folder marked with my name on the podium. Grace Anderson. He read from a summary sheet. 8 National Education Excellence Awards. 3-time Teacher of the Year. Founder of Art Heals, a therapy program serving 500 children with disabilities. Published in the Journal of Art Therapy. Recognized by the Department of Education. He pulled out another sheet. Letters from 237 families, independently verified, crediting Grace with transforming their children's lives. 14 children who were nonverbal before her program and now communicate through art. 3 suicide preventions directly attributed to her intervention. Tears streamed down my face. I hadn't known he knew. A woman in the crowd stood up. That's my son's teacher. She saved his life. More parents began to stand, sharing their stories. My parents looked stunned. Isabella's mouth hung open. Now, Miss Anderson, Harold said, turning to Isabella, would you like me to read your grandfather's assessment of your contributions? Read it, she said, her face stone. Harold nodded, opening a noticeably thinner folder. Isabella Anderson. Harvard Law, summa cum laude. Community service, 40 hours total over 3 years. All mandatory. In 2019, you organized a charity auction and charged the charity a $15,000 administrative fee. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. In 2020, you offered pro bono services to a homeless shelter, but withdrew the offer when you discovered the tax write-off was too small. Isabella's lawyer, Lawrence Fitzgerald, pushed through the crowd. This is highly irregular. I am executing my client's explicit instructions, Harold replied. He then turned to page 7 of the will. Article 7, Conditions of Inheritance. My estate shall pass to the granddaughter who demonstrates genuine service to humanity. He looked at my parents. But there's more. The humility provision, subsection C. He read aloud. Should any beneficiary attempt to coerce, manipulate, or force another beneficiary to forfeit their inheritance, the coercing party forfeits all claims immediately and permanently. My parents went white. Isabella grabbed the podium for support. Furthermore, Harold continued, his voice ringing with authority, if such coercion occurs in public, the forfeited inheritance transfers entirely to the wronged party, activating the emergency trust fund of $15 million, separate from the estate. Tonight, Harold gestured to the room. Robert and Margaret Anderson. along with Isabella Anderson, attempted to force Grace to sign away her inheritance rights in front of 200 witnesses. The conditions are met. My father sank into a chair. He planned all of this. He knew you, Harold said simply. The estate accounts were frozen 40 minutes ago. Court orders, signed by a judge monitoring the situation remotely, were already in effect. The penthouse, the Tesla, the company, all of it now belonged to me. The total came to $64 million. Isabella, whose law firm offer was now in jeopardy due to the fraud, crumbled completely, sobbing. She looked at me through her tears, really looked at me for the first time. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew you were worth more." "I didn't know about the will," I said honestly. "But I knew my worth wasn't measured in dollars." "I did everything right," she gasped. "Perfect grades, perfect school." "Perfect is not the same as good," Harold said gently. "Your grandfather wrote, 'Isabella has every advantage but empathy.' Maybe losing everything will teach her what gaining everything never could." I stood at the podium, looking at my broken family. "I accept the inheritance," I said clearly. "All of it. But I also accept my grandfather's vision. The company will become the Anderson Foundation for Art Therapy. The money will fund teachers, not takeovers." I turned to Isabella. "You want to learn to serve? You'll start Monday. Minimum wage, working with our most challenging kids. 2 years. If you last, you'll receive your original inheritance." She nodded immediately. "Yes. Anything." I faced my parents. "The Hamptons house becomes a summer camp for special needs children. You will have a living trust, enough for a reasonable life, not the excess you're used to." My final condition was simple. Family therapy. All of us. Weekly for a year. 6 months later, the Anderson Foundation served 2,000 children across 5 states. The Hamptons house hosted its first summer camp. Isabella lasted the first month by sheer will. The second month broke her when a 7-year-old with autism had a meltdown and threw purple paint everywhere. I found her in the supply closet, crying. But then she started to laugh. "He was trying to paint the sound of happiness," she said. "He told me purple sounds happy." Now, she runs our sensory art program. Her salary is $43,000 a year. She drives a Honda Civic. She's never been happier. My parents volunteer every Wednesday. My mother wears paint-stained blouses like medals of honor. I still teach at PS 47, but now I can buy all the supplies we need. My grandfather didn't leave me millions. He left me the means to multiply compassion. He left me a test disguised as a gift, wrapped in justice and sealed with love. He knew the quietest person in the room is often the strongest.